You ever watch a sporting event and wonder who's the meathead headbutting dudes in helmets?
Or the guy spraying water through a player's face mask.
Welcome to the Jock Sport Podcast. I'm your co-host, Chris Virtue, alongside Collin Francis.
We'll provide our experiences and insights on what really is required amongst the support systems of elite-level teams and athletes.
We're one strength coach
and one athletic trainer,
peeling back the curtain on what really goes on underneath those bleachers. Are you ready, bro?
I'm ready, man.
Yeah, buddy.
Let's get it.
Yeah, make it bounce, make it bump. Always give the party people what they want. The speakers be banging highs, mids, and lows. Make you want to start getting busy on the floor. All the fly girls screaming out. The DJs rocking and shot.
The Clemson Tigers. You're going down to Clemson, South Carolina. You got to make sure you hit up the Eso Club.
Oh, wow.
The Eso Club is my spot. It's this old Eso gas station. Great chicken tenders, great French fries, great liquids, libations, if you will.
Libations. What
Don't
libations?
order a cocktail. Just order a beer, okay?
What libations have you been enjoying recently?
I've been on a big tequila kick lately. A little Casamigos Reposado has been my jam. It's been my post-camp drink, break camp, break OTAs, break Monday. It's good whenever. I like it.
It's
That
good.
and, of course, the Black Cherry White Claws. You can't go all with the Black Cherry White Claws.
I could use a White Claw, dude. Yeah, it's getting hot here, so now it's Corona.
Oh, yeah. Corona season is in. It's been Corona season for 2 years, but now this is the good Corona season.
This is the good Corona season.
Okay. On the grill, what are you putting on first? What's your first, boom, okay, it's summer, I want to eat this.
Like a good, from like a Fresh Time or Whole Foods or Blooming Foods, like their sausages. I like chicken sausages or just the sausages you used to buy and bring over from like Kroger. Get like the spinach ones or something like that. I like grilling and I like grilled food. So I like hot dogs. I like Italian sausages, burgers. I'm not a big steak guy, to be honest.
See,
I like slow cooking though. I'll slow cook pork. Like I'll slow cook for 8 hours and smoke some pork. It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. You got to tend to it. My boss at the Ravens recently had a son graduate from high school, and he brought his family from North Carolina up, and one of the equipment managers, and they were out there for 2 days getting their ribs right, getting some pulled pork, getting some chicken going. I said, oh my gosh. And you could tell when food is cooked with love, right? That's why all of us big boys, you could tell when food is cooked with love because we like some love now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good barbecue is always good. I like that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, a good burger is always good, but I've been like wrestling with should I get a new grill or not? Because do I grill enough to warrant the big dog grill? Because I have one of the, the Lowe's Charbroil $3.99.
Traeger or Peloton? Traeger or Peloton? Those are the
Peloton.
I like the
You're
Peloton.
running while you're cooking?
Peloton might be my next investment. I love those bikes, man. They're fun.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that do like those. I don't mind the Traeger. I've read into like the Traeger stuff and the pellets, but you have to plug it in. And I don't really feel like plugging it in. I'd rather use gas.
I don't know if you're supposed to cook with Bluetooth. I don't know if you're supposed to look at your phone and change the temperature of the grill. There's some to me about that. Like AI is great. Automation is going nowhere, right? Especially in our fields. Artificial intelligence is just machine learning. Machines are able to do things faster than we are. It just is what it is. But I don't know if I want my food controlled by it too much.
No, what's really cool? I looked into, we had a big tree in our backyard. It's like right by our big set of windows. And we had to remove it, which is a whole. My next job is going to be like tree removal services because they just are making bank. It's so expensive. Oh, it's ridiculously expensive to remove a tree. But now you have that, open area where the tree trunk used to be, and they have. So instead of doing a fire pit, have you seen those Brio fire pits?
No.
So it's like it's just like a big tub. It looks like a big stainless steel tub. and it's, you can move it around, you can take it with you and stuff. They're like 24 inches wide. A lot of them will have a lip on the outside that you can they can cook meat on and stuff. If you watch some of the like Instagram Sasquatch barbecue guy or other things, they'll use that, but it's a smokeless fire pit. So the way they build the fire pit, and it's kind of it almost looks like a big Yeti, like a Yeti coffee mug.
I think I've seen them. I think there's a Maryland company that does it too. Yeah.
So you just place this, you put it where you normally would a fire pit, but you can move it around wherever you want. And they get incredibly hot. And as you just throw it in like you normally would, but there's no smoke coming out of it because of the way the chamber works and how it dispenses like the oxygen and the gas and the smoke. And then they have attachments that you can grill off of it, or a sear. Like I have a sear plate around the outside you can sear stuff around the outside. Those look pretty cool. They're a little expensive, but no more than a grill would be. And it's just one of those where you watch the Instagram videos and you're like, yeah, I could do that. But then you maybe do it once a year. So is it worth it?
My uncle got his tree removed and then put like an in-ground pit smoker in it with a full like rotisserie pit that we did a whole pig with once. He put a whole pig in a cage and we just did a whole pig one night for my other cousin's graduation party. So the options are endless when it comes to backyard barbecuing, and I like that. That's part of the fun.
You just need a little bit of time to do it.
Time is of the essence.
Like OTAs, you ain't getting that time.
No.
How do you go? And let me ask you this. This is like May, June, and January, depending on if it's football or basketball or the Olympic side. What are your guys' like hiring practices? How do you hire? How do you go about posting it? How do you go about, looking at resumes and stuff? Like, what are you guys on the athletic training side, NFL side? What are you looking at?
And it's a good one. I don't believe that many of our jobs are ever posted. I think some organizations have requirements that they have to post a job. I think some fellowships, internships are posted because they're shared funding, right? If a certain hospital system funds a fellowship or a position and they want it posted to get the most candidates because they have certain policies, boom. First and foremost, if I'm doing the hiring, I'm looking for somebody who's worked in the organization before, someone who I don't have to transition or teach all of the stuff to them, right? A former intern, a former season-long intern, maybe a former assistant that is now at a new position of maybe more responsibility that left on their own terms. I think someone that worked in the organization has a little bit of working knowledge of the room, and that's really important. Then the injuries don't change. A hamstring at a small Division I college and a hamstring in the NFL are the same. The resources are different. The type of athlete is different, but the physiological effect of the injury is the same. So it's less about that, more about knowledge of the space, having worked in the NFL before and maybe at a different club or a different organization. So an internship somewhere else where they might know how to deal with this type of level of athlete that we have, but might not know the specifics of your building. Then you look at Power 5 football assistants, Power 5 football athletic trainers. At this point, if you've worked at that level, you're working with NFL caliber athletes, right? The gap is lessening between professional athletes in college football every single day as guys get, bigger, faster, stronger. So I think experience in those settings is important, less about kind of what injuries you've worked with or what other parts you've done.
But so like if you say you do open it up and you're going into the Power 5 or whatever, if you're going through that process, resumes are changing nowadays. Like we were going through a process and I went through, 100, 200 resumes. Like what are you looking for? What stands out on say, let's go past someone that hasn't been in the organization or even in maybe in the NFL or something. Like what's popping out to you? What do you want to see? What does it need to look like?
Yeah. One, I want to see somebody who has worked with some autonomy before. So if you have worked your own sport as a grad assistant, if you are a small college head football athletic trainer, that's valuable experience that nobody else can get. Uh, it is something to be said for somebody who went to a large SEC school and was a student trainer, and then went to another large SEC school and was a GA with the football team, and then was a season-long intern for an NFL team. Well, when you were an undergrad student, you weren't making any decisions. When you were a GA with the SEC football team, you probably had 2, 3, maybe 4 staff members over you. And now as a season-long intern, you're the same way. You have 6 staff members ahead of you. So you're not really making any critical decisions. You're not really thinking about the injury process as you make them. You're just doing a lot of work, and it's valuable work. It's valuable experience. You know, the world needs ditch diggers too.
Getting
right?
really good at making Gatorade.
Important.
Getting really good at making Gatorade.
You get amazing at making Gatorade. You get amazing at counting Gatorade, stacking Gatorade. It's your wheelhouse, right? But you're really not making any medical decisions. So you might graduate, you might come out of that internship with 2 years of Power 5 football, a year NFL, and 4 years as in the SEC, but you haven't done anything. You haven't made any substantial decisions or had that opportunity to go to the coach the first time and say, I think he can go. And the coach said, what do you mean think? Well, you're supposed to know, right? The first time I ever told a coach, it was a swimming and diving coach. I said, I think he can swim. And I realized quickly that you don't need to tell the coach what you think. You just need to tell him black or white, can and cannot go.
Go or no go.
Go or no go.
Say you have, maybe not an entry level, but more of like a 2 or 3 year, in the business job open up. Would you rather someone a little bit more greener that you can mold and you can teach some of those things, or say someone's coming in with 10 years of experience and is going to work for less than probably what they're worth, but they may be, they may bring something different to the table, but they also may butt heads because they are so experienced?
I think it goes hand in hand with the job duties and responsibilities and the tasks that you're going to ask your team of coworkers to complete. So with me, if I'm the head athletic trainer, I'm going to have a director of sports medicine innovation. That's going to be a young up and coming assistant who is eager, forefront of education, and always making sure we're up to date with technology and the newest and best things out there. But my director of return to play is going to be an athletic trainer and a strength coach. So somebody who has some experience in athletic training, some experience in strength and conditioning, and can map them better to help that return to play decision, that last 2 months of rehab.
You're talking about the unicorn.
The unicorn. Not to be confused with the director of rehab, who will be an athletic trainer who has former head athletic training experience, who can understand how to run a room and run long-term rehab plans and calendars, something a little specific to somebody with more athletic training experience. So all 3 jobs have the same title: assistant athletic director, and then assistant athletic trainer, and then director of innovation, director of rehab, director of return to play. But all 3 have different responsibilities. And that's where the extra certifications would come into play. That's where the experience, the sport specific experience would come into play. For somebody to be the director of innovation, they have a super important role of making sure the department stays up to date, but they don't necessarily need as much athletic training experience to do that. So I think it's all dependent on how you set up your staff.
Director of innovation. You guys just have titles up at that level that don't even make sense.
Well, none of that doesn't exist. I mean, that's my model. That's not the model that I work in. That's the model that I will have. Yeah.
This is your own Venn diagram that you've created in your sleep.
But you look at all the other fields, right? Marketing has a marketing director, marketing coordinator, senior marketing advisor, marketing counselor. And every year it seems people are getting these promotions. What do we do in athletic training? Oh, you're an assistant athletic trainer. If you stick around long enough, we'll make you an associate.
Yeah, I know that game. That's
right. So we should be looking at departments the same as all the other places.
Yeah. I think it's just hard. I think it says something to the point of the people that have jobs that work in the upper floors versus the ones that work on the ground floor. Because, marketing, I don't know what else you have on the NFL, but the people that maybe brush elbows more with the bigger decision makers of the organization as a whole versus you guys are downstairs, you're taking care of the players. Like the closer I feel you get to the players, the further away you get from the big decision makers. The closer you get to the athletes. So you're so ingrained into working with the athletes. And then as a profession, we stall our growth in, I think that's what we're trying to figure out as strength coaches. It comes up every other day. Like, the field of strength and conditioning is this, or this is the direction it's going. And and it seems like we're just yelling from the ground floor saying, hey, we're really important down here, but we haven't found the way to best package that into a substantial career path for most individuals.
I think that it has to do with a certain amount of work as well. I'm in the football side of things, so I am a little bit biased. I think football athletic trainers work very hard, and I think football trainers work a lot. I don't think that an athletic trainer who does not work as much should demand as much money. Not that their job is not as important, but to me, it's the investment. It's, are you defending your desk? How long are you at your desk? The nature of my job requires me to be at my desk for a very long time. But somebody who just works one single Olympic sport does not spend as much time at their desk. They are not required to spend as much time at their desk. They only have 22 athletes. The job is very important. The job should pay a competitive wage, but it can't compare to the people who are working a lot more hours. Right. We want to compare ourselves to coaches. You look at those football assistant coaches who are getting paid handsomely. They are there all the time. Right.
Yeah.
So when I pull out of the parking lot, a lot of the assistant coaches are still there. So I think we have to keep that in perspective. Like, yes, these coaching staffs are making a lot of money, but they're doing a lot. So are you doing a lot? Not are you doing enough, but are you doing a lot? We should always be pushing ourselves to get better, always be pushing ourselves to expand our role, always be looking at these different companies about how we can include them in what we're doing.
But I also think sometimes at the end of the day, there's only so far you can go with certain positions, because you could do a lot. You can travel, you can be at practice, you can come up with your own protocols and assessments, and you use technology to do all this stuff. At the end of the day, we're like, you're a strength coach. You're an athletic trainer.
But how are you justifying the work that you do?
How so? How do you mean?
So, at our level, every single person has a $ attached to them. All right. So if there's 100 practices, I'm making these numbers up, but if there's 100 practices and I make $100,000 a year, that means I'm getting paid $1,000 a practice.
Yeah.
If I miss 10 practices because of injury, I cost the organization $10,000. They paid me $10,000. I did no work. Right. That's simple. So when we talk about injury prevention, when we talk about availability, player availability, are we talking it in terms of money that these administrators understand? Hey, last year you wasted $40,000 because of lower extremity injuries. This year you wasted $35,000 on lower extremity injuries because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, but okay. So one, that's a good way to objectify it, which you can't pay college athletes. So we don't have a way to objectify that. But also the X, Y, and Z, who's the one that's deciding what X, Y, and Z is? Because you can have strength coach, athletic trainer, whatever it is, doing stuff. But then if you have a coach that's not listening to the performance staff and is beating the shit out of these kids, and you have injuries due to that, I sent you that article the other day. The Los Angeles Lakers trainer got fired after 2 years. The person that was before her was there a year or two, and the person before that was there 30 years. So what has changed to where, you got someone like a Tim Garrow who's been there for 90 years because he's like 110 years old now. Or you have someone like at the Lakers who was there for 30 years. And then since then, they've gone through 2 trainers in 3 or 4 years. And there's injuries, but you're also talking about, like LeBron said, you're coming back from a season that got pushed because of COVID too soon. Obviously there's going to be injuries. So is that obviously that objective data, well, our injuries are up, our games missed, and our money towards that is lost. It's the trainer's fault.
Well, Gary Vitti, who was at the Lakers for, what was it, 34 years?
Something like that.
And he was doing a different job than the athletic trainers are now. Gary Vitti had nothing to do with player metrics, a full staff of therapists, dietitians, strength and conditioning coaches. Gary Vitti is a stalwart legend of NBA athletic training, but the job is different now, and I think even he would admit that, right? Player management is still the same.
It always evolves
taking care
and
of the
changes,
athletes is still the same.
They had injuries back then. Like when he was the trainer, they had injuries at times and stuff too. But what makes it now different that there's injuries and people are getting fired? Because there's this many people getting injured, you're fired.
Well, I don't think that's new. I think athletic trainers have always kind of caught the blame for a large injury report because we are the ones that give it, even though we're the ones who don't hurt them. Right? I can't speak firsthand about what went on in the Lakers organization, so I just don't know. But I'm a contractual employee. They can fire me whenever they want to. Right. If my contract's up, my contract's up. If they choose to renew it, they choose to renew it. So one thing is it's a certain level of risk that we take getting to the professional leagues, right? We know that every day could be our last day. I do not think athletic trainers should be held accountable for the amount of people on the injured list, but prevention is a foundation of athletic training. If you're not doing anything to prevent the injuries, you're just as culpable. So when you look back at your meetings and you look back at your training and your system, are you incorporating prevention into your care? Are you incorporating prevention into conversations with the strength and conditioning coach, with the coach, right? We could say, hey, this coach is beating him to shit, but are we telling them? I don't know. If we're not going to have the meetings and have the conversations about prevention, can we be held responsible for not preventing injuries? People are going to get hurt playing sports, right? And I think there's a certain level of what I had to learn with dealing with strength and conditioning coaches. People are going to get hurt in the weight room, and more times than not, it's not the strength coach's fault, right? You got college athletes, you got professional athletes, you got energy, you got juice. The injuries that come out of the weight room that I've seen are very minimal. I haven't had very many people get hurt in the weight room, but it's going to happen the same way. Someone's going to step off a curb and roll their ankle. You can't prevent that stuff. There's something that's unpreventable. But if you're doing everything you can to prevent the preventable, if you're doing everything you can to make sure those lower extremity injuries decrease year to year, it's not going to be zero.
Yeah, that's always the goal, though. Let me ask you this. I saw a tweet the other day of a sports scientist in the field. And he said he was educating recruits to, when they go on other visits, to help identify the phony. I think it was phonies or pretenders or something. How do you determine yourself who is like I'm watching The Wire. Have you watched Baltimore, The Wire? So I've watched
The Wire. Are you kidding me?
I've watched it before, but it's been a long time. So I'm watching it again. I'm like, oh man, it's like watching it for the first time because it's been so long since I've watched it.
Coming.
Omar, Stringer Bell, y'all. But
Stringer Bell.
The game is the game, right? But in there, they're like, he was real police, or they're real police. You know what I mean? Like they could tell, who's crap, who's not, just by reputation, how they carry themselves. How do you determine, like athletic training wise, well, who's real AT, who's not? Who's real, like performance staff, who's not?
I'll tell you how I figure out the real strength coaches, how much neck exercises they put in their lifting program. If there's a strength coach who doesn't lift neck and he's working with me, we got problems. Yeah,
but I've also seen, highlight videos of strength coaches implementing neck exercises, and they're pretty scary.
Oh, some of them are crazy, but I'm all Coach Rick all the time. You get that neck big. All right. Big, thick neck. You're either the hammer or the nail. All right. And I want some hammers.
Best life up in East Lansing.
I guess it looks to me, first is how they treat the players, how they talk to the players, and all the players from the offensive line to the DBs to the quarterbacks to the kickers, all different personalities. So that's how I look at their actual patient care. Are they spending time explaining the injury to the athlete? Are they spending time focusing that each exercise is done correctly, not just, hey, go do some quad sets and then on to the next thing? All right, that's the first thing is how they interact with the athletes, how they deal with the athletes, how they treat the athletes. The second thing that I look at is kind of what they do in their downtime. So do they maximize their time by getting their notes done immediately and then going on to packing and getting their packing done early in the week? Or do you have to remind them 2-3 days in a row to get their notes done? Do they wait till the truck leaves Friday night and Friday morning? Right. To me, that just shows the care that you have for the job. And if you could treat the athletes right and you care for your job, you're going to be a successful athletic trainer. So it's the how you deal with the patients and what you do in your downtime. How do you maximize that time? Because like you said, we are busy. We have a lot to do. So if you wait to the last second for everything, you could be running around.
I've heard at a friend of mine, he was like, an administrator asked me recently, what does a strength coach do for 8 hours a day? Especially if you have like one team. Yeah. What do you do all day? That's
if you have one team, do you deserve a high salary?
Well, I mean, basketball is one team.
How does the basketball strength coach do more than a regular Olympic sports strength coach?
I don't know. Depends on what school and what's required of that strength coach.
I guess you're about to find out what baseball strength coaches do. Do you have a pitcher warm up yet? Do you have a pitcher warm up?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with volleyball for years, so shoulder care, things of that nature. We have those protocols. It's just a lot different in baseball because you just have so much more of a kinetic energy transferred from the lower body into that shoulder, as opposed to in volleyball, it's 3-step approach. You're up in the air, and then a lot of your force and torque is created while you're in the air.
So I said recently that the strength coach is the major player in preventing injuries.
Yeah.
All right. I said that in one of the Jock support shorts. So
Sure.
in sorry to go back to this Lakers situation, who should be fired in that Lakers situation, in your opinion?
Well, yeah, that's a weird thing because you look at the Lakers, LeBron has his own guy. He has his own guy. His strength coach has a fanny pack and he carries LeBron's chapstick. So that's the role of that strength coach. Now he trains them and everything else that goes with it. But you're talking about different levels of athlete in such a small team to where LeBron has his own trainer, his own chef, his own everything. So it doesn't matter who the strength coach is on the Lakers. LeBron ain't training with that guy. And there's probably the same for Anthony Davis, who's missed like 40-some games this year, and some other of the players. And then you have a handful of the players that work with the strength coach, but the strength and conditioning staff. The strength and conditioning staff at the Lakers is interesting because I don't know. Have you ever heard of Gunnar Peterson?
No.
So he's a strength coach to the celebrities. So Kim Kardashian, Sylvester Stallone. He's been a big time celebrity trainer for 20, 30 years. And he recently, in the past 5-6 years, I think when Magic Johnson came along as the VP of operations, he became the strength coach. But he was mainly the strength coach when they were at, I believe, in town. And I could be completely wrong about all this. But I think he had 2 assistants that would travel with the team. But, like Tom Brady, his guy travels with it. Like that was a big butting of the heads with Belichick and at the Patriots because his guy was always in the facility or traveling with the team that does the TB12 stuff. So I think it's a little bit different when you get to the pro, and especially when you get to those teams that have those mega superstars. Like I don't know what some of your guys are doing now, but again, like I don't know the day-to-day basis and how they have it set up. I've talked to Gunnar before. He's a fantastic guy. And he does a lot of cool stuff, but you just never know what I think consistency is a big issue in the NBA. I think in the NFL, you can probably have a little bit more consistency, a little bit more control when the players are there. You're playing 16 games. It's regimented when you're practicing, all that. Whereas in the NF or the NBA, and I believe in baseball, especially in major leagues, like you're paying 82 games or 162 games. Where there are no phases in your strength training then. It's, being able to work at a certain volume and intensity consistently throughout the year. And consistency, I think, is key. And that's when we have a lot of problems, was when we start to lose our consistency.
These upper level athletes have their own strength gurus on the side, but they all have their own medical gurus as well that think that the medical staff of the team is making the wrong decision. You can go through Instagram and find these people. I always think it's funny when I see these workout sessions and there's more cameras than clients. Right? You're doing all this speed training with 2 clients, but you got 5 cameras and a drone out there. I don't understand. That. You should be focused on the client. You shouldn't be focused on recording it to make it known.
Yeah, right? But when you're at that level, it's about making. Yeah, but it's about making it known because that's how they make their money. How can you? They're private, so
I hear you. I just don't think that's noble.
Well, nobility, whatever. They're the ones making money at the end of the day. And they're the ones with the star athletes at the end of the day. They just, by the grace of luck, found, the star athlete, and they developed a good relationship. And that's what a lot of this job is developing good relationships and getting somebody to trust you, whether a book says it's true or not, or research proves it right or wrong. Developing a relationship with a certain athlete and getting him to believe in your way, whether it's right or wrong, can go a long way. And I compare athletics and the way we do it a lot into, working in the government or public service. Like you're taking a big sacrifice in your time, in your money, in your family life but at the end of the day, you're being fulfilled by the job, hopefully, in working with the athletes and seeing them mature and grow. And it's the same thing in government, to where you're seeing, you're on a city council, you're going to miss a lot of time with your family. You're not going to be paid what you would in the private sector, but that work can be fulfilling.
And maybe that's the difference between the private sector strength coaches and the private sector, athletic trainers and medical people. Because to me, if somebody walks in and says, "Hey, I just had this hamstring strain yesterday, I'd like it to get needled and cupped today," I'll say, well, if it happened yesterday, it's still in the acute phase of injury. Let's let it cool down a little bit. Let's let the inflammation phase set in. Let's let the body heal it. And then we can add cupping and needling maybe later on. All right. The athlete leaves, goes to his guru. "Hey, I'd like to get cupped and needled." Guess what? He's getting cupped and needled because he's paying for it. Mm-hmm. Is that medical care, private or public? I guess it's not public sector, but team sector or private sector. That's not medical care. That's just being told to do a task, because it is contraindicated for acute injuries.
Mm-hmm. It's not regulated though, too, so they can do whatever they want.
And they answer to no one. I answer to not only the team, the player, the agent, the coach, my supervisors, the NFLPA, right? Like we have people who check us. So the ones who operate unchecked and can comment on the work of team staff, I think it gets pretty tough. And everyone is tough on Twitter.
Yeah, but people are tough on Twitter if you buy into it. Like I always tell athletes, like people's opinions are their problem. I think when you go into athletics, it's just like the coaches. They're ripped apart every day. We're going to be ripped apart every day. You got to develop thick skin. 2 things. You got to develop thick skin, but you try to teach young people in the profession this. This is where you spend your 8 hours a day. You need to back up everything you're doing, or have a reason why you're not doing something. So that way, we talk about sports science and data and all this stuff and how do you use it and stuff. I would rather spend 6 hours, it's the old, I have to cut down a tree, give me an axe. I would spend 4 hours sharpening it. And then I cut down the tree. Like I want to know everything. I want to know every little bit of objective data that I can. Get around and see as much subjective data as I can. So then, in November, when I'm asked a 5-second or I'm asking a question, I'm supposed to give a 5-second answer. That's got to be the best 5-second answer possible. As opposed to I'm just pleasing my star athlete because he's who pays me.
Yeah. I'll tell you what was kind of the daunting thing for me when the head athletic trainer of the Lakers got relieved of her duties was that she was a minority. She's a female head athletic trainer in the NBA. I believe she was the first head female athletic trainer in the NBA, which is amazing. She's a minority. So, you look at athletic trainers, it's 3.3% in this country that are minorities. Physical therapists are 1.6% in this country minorities. So both of those things that she was a minority head athletic trainer. So I loved it. A female working in a tough male industry, amazing to kind of break through, and we need to see more of it. But she was in that organization for so long. She worked her way up from the G League to the full team staff, to the head athletic trainer of the full team. And I hate that somebody would invest all that time in an organization and then they would just kind of say, well, we're going a different direction. But I guess that is a risk that we all take, getting into the professional level, dealing with professional athletes. I hope that the decision was justified, and I hope that the decision, wasn't in error. But to spend that much time and just to get kicked to the curb, that's tough.
That was part 1 of this week's episode. Please tune in next week for the completion of this Jock Support Podcast episode. All commentary and opinions provided by the Jock Support Podcast are solely our own and do not express the views or opinions of our respective employers. No listener of the Jock Support Podcast should act or refrain from acting on the basis of information on this podcast without first seeking a medical professional. All liability with respect to actions taken or not taken based on the contents of the Jock Support Podcast are hereby expressly disclaimed.